I just wanted to thank everybody for stopping on through and checking us out. This has been a topic that has come up multiple times, multiple different venues, multiple different scenarios with people that I've spoken with over the years. And the discussion is that you can't get paid for streams, you can't get paid for airplay. You know, people are saying that radio stations are turning in their cue sheets and they're included, you know, but supposedly they're not, you know, musicians are not getting paid and everything. And my research into this developed primarily because of those conversations. And one of the more common things I'm finding is that this is happening to so many musicians simply because of the fact that the people whose role it is to pay you, the musicians who are looking to get paid, your royalties and all that, they're having difficulty finding you. They don't know who you are. You're not listed and all of that. And, you know, so as I was looking at it, I'm like, well, why is this happening? Why can't they find us and everything? Well, simply because of the fact that your music is out there and it's submitted through many of the portals, you know, to submit music, but it's not coming up in any of the databases. You know, there's no real digital footprint, you know. So the idea here is to get everyone on board to creating their digital footprint, okay? And I think that's a very important topic, and certainly, like I said, one that has come up on different occasions, and certainly something that we all would be interested in, because, I mean, there's some basic things, right? You have copyrights. Everyone knows about the copyrights, but in a nutshell, copyright is something that develops because of the fact that you created the music. The music is there, it's yours. You've put it out for various people to experience and enjoy and utilize in different scenarios and all of that. It's your baby, right? Well, royalties is the other side of that coin, which is the revenue that other people, whoever they are, owe you because they're making use of this great music that you've now created, okay? And because of that situation, there are many companies, organizations, and everything that have developed to help musicians create these royalties. And I say help in quotes, mostly because of the fact that the way it has developed with the laws and everything, it seems as though it's a convoluted maze that you have to run through in order to collect your royalties. You know, as money is yours. I mean, you created the music, they use the music, they should pay you. It should be that simple, but of course, we all know that it's not. So, you know, that's what this is all about. And we're not going to get too in depth on the big differences of the different types of royalties necessarily and all of that, but the idea is to focus here on how you can actually be identified as the rights owner, as the content owner, you know, and how you could be the person who gets paid instead of some random agency, or more frequently what happens is the pool of money is actively collected by the performing rights organizations. Okay, but because they don't know that these performances or broadcasts and everything are attributable to you, the money is just kind of sitting out there in a pool. And what happens eventually is it gets gathered up by the performing rights organizations and distributed to those who are most popular most known, those who are easier to find. Usually that's going to be some well-named established artist on a record label who has a quote unquote hit record, right? So the thing is, you don't want that to continue to happen to you. You want to be the one who gets paid for the content that people are enjoying. It's yours, again, so you should be paid, right? Okay, so with that in mind is this idea of creating your digital footprint. And what do I mean by that? It's very simply making sure that not only is your music listed in the various databases, it's also important to make sure that you, as the content creator, you as the songwriter, the rights holder, that you are identified along with your music. And then you are able to be identified and paid as you should be, right? So that's the thing. No guarantees, but it gives you the better chance. You are no longer riding out in some obscure wave of just being lumped in with everybody, because a big percentage of the funds which are unpaid to musicians every year simply happens because they cannot find who the content owners are. They cannot find the right person to get in touch with in order to make the payments. So this is what we're going to hit today. Okay, long, kind of winding introduction, but I think it kind of puts it into perspective, simply because of the fact that there are so many people who are going through the exact same thing. Okay, and if you look on the web, MLCs, the music licensing corporations, publications and everything, they'll tell you millions of dollars go every year, unassigned, unidentified, for the musicians who have made these creations, and it just kind of sits there in a pool waiting to be identified. And they've actually created a new tool for that purpose, and it's great. It's a great thing to be checked out. But I think that we'll just kind of jump in and look at some simple ways to identify yourself as the rights holder and everything for your music. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen here. One of the first places that I suggest people submit their music is a company called Gracenote. Not sure if you're familiar with them, but they really functioned more heavily during the era when we had CDs and iTunes. In actuality, they sort of had a monopoly on, meaning iTunes and Apple had a monopoly on your ability to submit music to be identified to the Gracenote system, because you had to use the iTunes platform in order to do it. So I'll just kind of show you that in a second. But a little bit about Gracenote and what Gracenote is. Gracenote basically is the electronic system that was built into all CD players, whether it's in a car or on a portable box or whatever, that would make the information of the CD that you put in pop up on the screen so that you can identify who's actually playing and what track it is, and all of that kind of stuff. It's not as popular now, but there are some scenarios. There are still quite a few scenarios that utilize CDs, and you need to be able to know how to do this in order to take advantage of it. So there will be plenty of times when you'll need a CD. There are a lot of radio stations that still want submissions on CD, so it's worthwhile to do that. So basically, this is the iTunes screen, and what you're going to do is you're going to pop your CD in, and basically upload the information into the system. Okay, and as it does that for each track, eventually what happens is the data gets loaded in, as you see here. So once that's done, you're going to click on the CD info and make sure that the information that your computer detects for your CD is done and entered correctly. And you're in control of this, so you can determine, you know, what you want the genre to be and the information as it's put in, so that you can make sure that everything is entered the right way. And after you're satisfied with that, next you're going to click on the little gear on the right that's for settings, and it allows you to upload the track information into the Gracenote system. Okay, and again, you want to review, make sure that the settings and the genre of the music, and because you are in control of this, so you will want to do that and select the correct genre that you want if it asks for it. Sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes you might enter some data that you feel it's one genre, and you know the historical information in iTunes says it's different. But once you do that and you click OK, you'll see it says CD information was successfully sent to the Gracenote media database. And that's the key point. That's the key point with all of this. You want to enter it into the database so that your music is there and your information can be found on a search. Stop the share there. Okay. So Gracenote is the first place that I tell everybody you have a CD or that needs to be submitted or whatever for radio airplay, what have you, and all of that. You want to make sure that it's listed in the Gracenote system so that when somebody pops it into their player, those few people who do still have them, the names come up and your information can be found. But again, the big deal, you want your information in the database so that it's searchable and you can be found. Okay, let's look at the next place to submit music. And a lot of you may have heard of this. It is SoundScan. Okay, I'm going to click over again, share my screen. SoundScan utilizes your ISRC codes and UPC codes to identify your song in their database. Okay, and this is an international database, it's very good. And this is very key, simply because of the fact that it is specific to your piece of music. The ISRC code, as well as the UPC code, but we'll get that into a minute. That's more for sales. But the ISRC code is identified specifically for your song. And it can also be identified specifically for this version of the song, whether it's the radio edit, the instrumental version, okay, the album version, the extended mix, the remix by DJ, Amazing, for example. They do a remix of your song. You can apply and get its own ISRC code for that. Okay, and because this is so specific and it'll be entered into a searchable database, it is the exact kind of thing that you want to have present for each of your songs in order for them to be found. Okay, and this also gives rise to things such as social proof, because when DJs are searching for songs, you will tend to pop up in their database search, and they'll keep seeing your name over and over and say, who is this guy? Let me do some research. It's like, wow, it's really, she's really out there and she's doing stuff and everything's there, So this is what you want to have happen to your music. You want it to be searchable. You want it to be identifiable. You want you to be identifiable as the composer. Okay, and you want to be able to basically be found and put into the queue in order to receive your royalties when your music is played. Is very helpful. UPC codes are used primarily for when your music is purchased. EAN is a different type of UPC code. Usually UPC codes are used in the United States. EAN codes are used in several other countries, Europe, Asia, and all of that. Okay, so it's important to know the distinction. And there can be issues with utilizing one versus the other because they're different numerical lengths and all of that. So, don't let them confuse you when it happens. Okay, and you're submitting. Okay. Another cool one, another cool database to submit your music is the Nielsen Database. Nielsen BDS. Why is this important? Because this will get you into the database for their radio reporting system, Nielsen ratings, and all the Billboard, all of these. I mean, if you're making, big movements in those directions, you will want to have your information, your data searchable, identifiable, and everything for these guys. I mean, if you have an independent hit and you're not in the database and you're moving a lot of product and you're getting a lot of airplay, it is possible that even though you're listed on the cue sheets, that they don't have enough information to identify your song. So you want to make sure that that's not the case. Okay, you want to be identifiable. You want to be easily found and readily able to have the song attributed to you. So Nielsen Database, BDS, is a great place to have it listed. Again, Billboard #1 hit, it's not going to happen if you're not in their database. Okay, even if you actually are a #1 hit, if you're not in their database, you don't get any credit for it. So, you definitely want to make sure that that piece is taken care of. Let's look at SoundExchange. SoundExchange is the guys who handle cool things that are very confusing. They handle neighboring rights royalties, and these are royalties that happen for various online broadcasters and satellite broadcasters like SiriusXM and online people like Pandora and of course iHeartRadio and all of these others. And what they do is they collect the royalties that are generated in this fashion for you. Again, this is a database. Again, they monitor the airplay, the broadcast, the digital, broadcasts. They also handle things such as physical sales, utilizing the ISRC codes and the UPC codes, okay, to help identify your music. So when you have this sort of thing pushing your songs, gathering the data, again, that is what's called social proof. You are showing how your music is actually out there. It's a real thing, and how your music is available at the time that they're gathering the data. So when it comes time to try and figure out whose song was receiving so much airplay and all of that, then you will become eligible for a larger share of that money that's floating out there. And when people say that you can't get paid for streams, you can't get paid for airplay and all of that, I'm saying, well, that may very well have been true in the past. because they couldn't identify you. But now, utilizing these techniques, you can create a digital footprint for each of your songs and allow you to be the person who's paid, not just some programmer or popular person on a record label. You can identify your song as having been played at such and such a day and lining up with the cue sheets for various radio stations and broadcasters. Okay, so I think that at the end of the day, your goal is to achieve exactly that, because it's going to give you the social proof. It's going to give you the listing in the database. It's going to give you your ability to identify or be identified as the content and rights holder, for that particular song. And you want to make sure that all of these things are put together so that when it's time for you to get paid, you actually can. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again, and let's look at another cool place to submit your music. Talked about BDS. Okay, let's talk about the MLC. Now this is a really big deal, and they've blown up and created some very useful and interesting tools lately. The MLC stands for the Music Licensing Collective, and people may have heard of them before, maybe yes, maybe no, but long story short, their goal is to try to identify the appropriate individuals who are the creators of the songs that are not being identified. They want to try and put names and contact information associated with that big pile of unidentified royalties that goes unclaimed every year. And that's what they're tasked with, and they're pretty good at it. Now, what they've done is to create a very interesting tool that allows you to go through and search their database of identified songs that have been played at certain times and allow you to identify that. So this is a reason that you want to be listed with the Music Licensing Collective, because what they will end up doing is helping you to identify what and how much, to the degree that they can, of that money that's out there that's not identified that could be attributed to you. So with all of that in mind, you realize that you need to be a member of the Music Licensing Collective. Okay, and I'll tell you, it's many people, and you can go and you can look on reviews of their success, and they put out a lot of publications and a lot of assistance and all of that, and they will definitely be high up on your list in terms of helping you, get your royalties and all of this. Are there any guarantees even with this? No, there are not. But you have zero chance of collecting anything or being successful with recouping any of these types of payments or what have you if you're not listed in any of these databases, because the people who are paying don't know who you are. They cannot find you, so this is going to make it easiest for them so that you can be more successful in getting paid, which is the goal here, which is what we're trying to create. Okay. Actually, I think I've covered all 5 of the areas that we were going to hit, and I moved a little bit faster, but it's, I'm roughly around the 30-minute mark. So that's not actually more like 28 minutes, but it's not that bad. The key thing to remember for all of this though is you want to get your music and your information, your rights ownership information and everything listed in these various databases. because that is how you're going to be found. That is how you're going to be identified as the rights holder in order to make sure that you get the best chance of getting whatever piece of this cloud of unidentified or unattributed money that goes left in the system every year. And you, as the person who composed the music, and you compose great music, and there are several people who relate to your music and enjoy your music, so you should get paid. And the way to help make sure that happens, make sure that you're listed in the databases and make sure that you can be found. Okay. Now we touched on copyrights and we talked about how copyrights are essentially something that developed and is instantly in place once you create your music and put it in an interactive form where somebody else can experience it, whether it's recorded onto your hard drive or it's written down, or recorded on video, what have you. It doesn't matter. Your copyright instantly exists. Now, the issue with that is the fact that you have to have an official registration with the U.S. Copyright Office in order to litigate any rights infringements. Okay. That doesn't mean that you can't still prove that the composition is still yours, which you can. But in order to bring a case in a court of law, you have to make sure that you're registered with the U.S. Copyright Office. And I say this because there are a lot of services out there that will help you identify yourself as the copyright owner. But the thing those services do not provide is the legal standing. Okay. And of course, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a law degree or any of that kind of stuff. And if you are ever stuck in a copyright issue, you will want to make sure that you have sought appropriate legal counsel to, help you manage that situation. I'm just mentioning it as a general overview, simply because of the fact that copyrights are definitely tied in deeply into royalties. Okay, and royalties, like we mentioned before, are simply the licensing fees, if you will, that you are owed if someone utilizes your music for any reason, whether it be broadcasts or syncing to a film or commercial, or even broadcasting on YouTube, but all of those are examples of royalties, and all of those are examples where your music is entered into a playlist or cue sheet or what have you, and therefore it needs to be listed in the various databases that we talked about today in order to be found and create a real digital footprint. Okay, so just to recap briefly, I'm going to share my screen again just to remind you that some real quick places that you should list each of your songs, whether you're going to release them now or they're going to be released later or what have you. It's very important. It's a little bit antiquated, but there are some scenarios where you will still be releasing CDs. So you want your CD to be entered into the Gracenote database. This is the database that allows, when you place a CD in a CD player in a car or whatever, wherever you are, it makes the information pop up. Another quick hack with using Gracenote is if you happen to have iTunes on your computer, you can enter your information in the database just like I did, but to help triangulate and make your information more valuable to the Gracenote system, have a friend or two in a different location do the exact same thing on their computer. Okay, and that allows them to sort of triangulate who you are, to know that the information is accurate and it'll get through their system even quicker. Okay, SoundScan is very important for making sure that you're in their database, in the database for online radio airplay, for digital systems and all of that, so that they can make sure they know who you are when you are getting the radio airplay, when you are getting streams done. Okay. Next, we have SoundExchange. SoundExchange really was known for being the guys who would tell you how many copies of a CD you used to sell and all of that. But now they handle a lot more of the same digital broadcasts, digital radio station broadcasts, and all of that. So, you know, it's kind of a double whammy there, double coverage, if you will, by submitting to SoundExchange and their database as well. Okay, so you make sure you want to do that. You want to submit to the BDS Nielsen Database in addition to all of the others. Why? Because they have set stations that identify and report to their system. And these are the folks who handle the Billboard charting. You know, so if you're going to be eligible to be on their chart system and everything, you need to be in their database so that they can identify you and find you and make sure that you're, you know, getting the credit that you need. And finally, you want to make sure that you are a member of the Music Licensing Collective. And their job really is to help identify all of this nebulous cash out there that goes unidentified from year to year. You want to be the person who's listed in there and finding your content. And they have cool tools that I believe are in beta. They're in beta right now, but you can still, as a member, sign up and get in to make use of them and to help actively physically identify your songs that have received play and or streams, and they will help you get through and organize that. And it's to your benefit to be in their system. And they have other cool educational sessions that they put on to help you with ideas of making sure you identify your royalties and helping you to collect your royalties and all of that. So, you know, these places are really to your benefit to go ahead and become part of. So I think that, you know, all of this is pretty much very helpful and nice to stay organized. And I'm sure that most of you have felt that this is something that you've been meaning to do and really wanted to, you know, get it put together and all of that. But I'll tell you, just take the opportunity to do the work, and it's a little bit of typing and inputting and all of that, but it's well worth your while. It's well worth your while, because since I've started doing this, I've noticed I've been getting a lot more attention from various promoters, as well as radio stations and various databases and content managers who have been able to actually find me, to contact me, you know, and because I'm in these databases and I'm showing up on their searches, I'm getting the social proof, you know, that I'm actually there. And it's all of these little things that really draw people to you and your vibe and your sound. And if you happen to be what they're looking for at the moment, bam, just simply by being in the database. And that's what you want to do. You want to be in the database. You know, you've heard the term, you have to be in it to win it. This is literally that. Literally it is. Well, listen, I'm Darrell "Phatfunk" Looney. I'm an independent musician, just like many of you. And I appreciate your taking the time to stop through and, you know, check out what I had to say today. And I look forward to hooking up and connecting and doing the same thing, you know, real soon. Bye, guys.